Hi, I'm Kristy Fifelski, and you're watching a special video series on the topic of advancing women in government. So you'll hear directly from government and private sector leaders. We're going to take a look at the current research out there. And most importantly, we're going to figure out together what resources are available to keep this momentum moving forward. But first, why women? Why government? Well, it's no secret that there's a growing international initiative to empower women and to focus on women's issues and equality. There are some high-profile government leaders behind initiatives like these, including organizations like the UN Women's Organization and high-profile leaders like Secretary Clinton. Well, here in the United States, despite all of our advancements, if you look at the current numbers, women still only earn 81 cents on the dollar compared to the national wages of what men earn. And we still don't have enough women in high-profile leadership positions within government. So that's really why we're exploring this issue. Take a look at this graph published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics just a few months back. So the colors represent the top industries that have employed women over the past 46 years. Now, federal, state, and local government all made this list, but check out local government specifically. Back in '64, local government was in the top 3 employers of women, and it's still in the top 3. Government is an important industry to talk about when we're looking at advancing women. I video Skyped with Sally D'Amato recently. She is a partner in a public sector firm. You've probably heard of Deloitte. She works in the federal space, but for a long time, Deloitte has been known for cultivating the women within their organization for leadership roles. And they've published some external pieces on the business case for women in leadership positions. So Sally was telling me about why it's important to have women at the top in these leadership positions. Let's take a look at some of her insights. What do you think are some of the obstacles as well as opportunities facing the advancement of women in government?
The reality is that in the federal government now 44% of the federal workforce is women. But as you increase in terms of levels, so you get into GS13, GS14, GS15, as you move up into those categories, the numbers and the percentages drop. So women are playing a significant role, but they hold the lower end positions at a higher percentage than the upper end positions. There's clear concern in the federal space that we need to figure out systems and mechanisms and training and access for women to increase their exposure and the percentage representation at those higher levels. It's concerning on a number of fronts. In terms of leadership, the construct of leaders that don't represent, or the leadership percentage and the mix of leaders don't represent really the workforce that they're leading. If you don't have that natural sort of representation at the higher level, you do have some concern at the lower levels in terms of do my leaders really get it? Or do I have mentors? Do I have sponsors at the higher level that I can touch and network with, that I know I can rise to that next tier level? You can think about those things in terms of competitiveness. I think around the world there's a construct that women and the growing concerns and focus on women and women's advancement is a growing dialogue piece across the world. The U.S. needs to be there. We need to be right on top of it, walk the talk. I think we have some great representation out there talking about these topics. I think, I clearly think Secretary Clinton is doing a fabulous job talking about the power of empowering women and girls across the globe. And I think it comes right back to the U.S. I think the U.S. can do the same.
I also had a good discussion recently with Cathilea Robinett. She holds the top position within her organization, the Center for Digital Government, as its executive director. We were talking about why it's important to have women in leadership roles, specifically within the field of government technology. Now, that's one of my passions, so I was especially interested in this conversation. Let's take a look at some of the dialogue.
I think we definitely need to encourage women to take leadership roles in technology. It's interesting for me because when I go out to speak, it's usually me on a panel with a bunch of men. So there are a few of us here. Now that's changed over time, and there are more women in our world. But I think it's really important to have women in the workforce, specifically in the technology space. I think women add a whole different level to the discussion, come at things a little differently, and I'm really big into promoting women in technology. In fact, when I find a woman CIO, I befriend her and I do everything in my power to help her and forward her career, always. Because we are extremely valuable in this marketplace, have so much to offer. And mentoring and really taking particularly younger women and holding their hand and bringing them up, I think is a legacy and a big responsibility for all of us who are doing well in our career as women.
What advice would you have as someone coming from this leadership position and in that role? What advice would you have for up and coming women leaders?
I think, for example, we have great role models right now. Terry Takai is our CIO here from California, who went on to become the first woman CIO of the Department of Defense. That is huge. You know, they're pretty much all men, and they're military as well. And so for her to do something like that, it really creates many more opportunities for other younger women who are following in her wake. So I think we have to look to the role models that we have, learn from them, emulate. And then I think that women need to be really comfortable about who they are in the workplace and continue to push for their right place in this world that we live in today.
So both Sally and Cathilea mentioned the importance of mentoring as it relates to advancing women in government. So I'd like to explore this concept further. Check out the next video because we're going to be chatting with some representatives from the State Department as well as the National Institutes of Health. All right, thanks for watching this special video series on advancing women in government. I'm Kristy Fifelski.